Grace and mercy and peace from God our Father and Jesus Christ our Lord. This is Emery Barber of ebcreativemedia.com, and glad to have you here with us for our Design Dimensions Challenge. Glory to God. We're going to take a moment to allow others to come in who may be joining us this morning. We're grateful for this privilege to be able to come and share with you some awesome dimensions that many of us may not have known were right in the palm of our hands. And so we are delighted to share this with you on today, this beautiful Saturday morning in November. Many of us have had to pivot in the midst of this pandemic, and in regards of pivoting, we've had to find unique ways to continue to socialize, to continue to stay connected, to continue to engage ministry, and also to continue to engage business. And so for the various nuances for which you might utilize what we're about to share today, I want you to know that it is indeed far-reaching. It's indeed far-reaching. And so we're going to take a look at some things today as we share with you, and we're going to move forward. A lot of us didn't realize that there's so many different tools that are available to us to be able to utilize, and some of them we haven't even perfected as yet, as you'll be able to see in this particular workshop / webinar that I present with you today. But we move forward and we learn as we go. Let me just put it out that way. And so bear with me for some of the challenges that I may experience as I share and expose this element to you today. Let me share a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Emery Barber. I am the founder and CEO of ebcreativemedia.com. I am pastor of Shepherd's House Open Bible Church, East New York, Brooklyn branch. I am a husband to my beautiful wife, Pastor Stephanie Barber. Father to 3 beautiful children, 1 son and 2 daughters, and we are grateful to God for them. I've worked in the creative media space for a little bit under 20 years, and in varying capacities. And as you know, things have consistently changed. They say the only thing that's constant, and that's besides our Heavenly Father, is change. Change is constant. And so creative media and the various forms of creative media have changed down through the years. But I want to say that I believe that my ear has been uniquely attuned to the move, and as the Spirit would allow, the direction that it has been going. And so today, as many of you know, in the Be Creative Challenge, which we initiated back in October officially, is something that we have tried to utilize to bring a community of creatives together, to be able to discover, for some who are new, tools that they could use, and to refine for those of us who are more seasoned in this posture, such that we can use it in the varying areas of our life. So for instance, today I am using StreamYard, and in utilizing StreamYard, there are elements that I bring to StreamYard that will help to facilitate what I want to do. When we think of PowerPoint, some of us are often thinking about PowerPoint presentations. But today, my intention is to share with you that is broader than just the actual presentation. There are design features. PowerPoint is robust with these features that will allow us to bring new dimensions to things that we hadn't formerly thought that we could. So if I back up for a moment, I would let you know that there is, for those of you who may not know, a green screen behind me. And green screen technology, formerly known as chroma key in the television radio, television world, I should say television world, is the use of being able to import an image into a frame that may not actually be there, but gives the view that that is actually what's taking place. Many of us were familiar with it when we were growing up with the television news stations. A lot of them were not actually in studios. Some of them were in studios that had those backgrounds. But more particularly when the weatherman was giving the news and he's pointing toward a particular area that there's probably going to be flooding, we see what you see here, but he's actually looking, or she's looking at a screen, I should say a monitor, and they're using the monitor to gauge where they are, and then they change that screen based on what they're reporting and what they've pre-set up. Software that may have been used in those times were Photoshop, Illustrator, Corel Draw, if you remember those things, that basically they used to create an image, and then they saved it as a JPEG, and then they imported it into a computer or software that it could be used in. That technology is only refined or changed, I should say, in so much as we now import it into our live streams, as it were, such that what we're seeing now is people are able to engage in live reporting by social media such as YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and the like. But with this green screen being behind me, this green screen basically identifies certain planes, certain areas that it's going to replace with an image that I have pre-made. One of those images that I have pre-made is the studio that you see. So to take an actual picture, or in some instances, purchase a picture that may have been a picture of a living room incorporated with a picture of a studio, what have you, and then to modify it. And I wanted to share that this particular one has been modified utilizing PowerPoint. And many would often use something like Photoshop to make those changes because it's essentially an understanding of layers, which we're going to get to in a moment. If you hear in the background, please excuse me, that's my daughter in the next room in her college course, bless the Lord. To the point that learning, as we are engaged in this moment right here, this hour, has even pivoted in itself, as many of us are finding ourselves not in our workspaces, but now working remotely. In fact, CBS made an announcement yesterday that 70% of their workforce is going to continue working remotely even after the pandemic has been dealt with and is manageable, as they are intending to reduce their real estate blueprint. Indeed, handwriting on the wall, you've been hearing me talking about the replacement of brick and mortar with click and order. It's not, only what I've said, but what you hear has been said down through the years, and we see it being manifested in greater measure now. And so, as I was saying, this was modified by PowerPoint, but now we're streaming utilizing StreamYard. And as we are utilizing StreamYard, there's certain elements. You have what's called lower thirds. You also have upper thirds that are often used in certain presentations, sometimes to identify the brand of the person that is presenting or selling or perhaps ministering, depending what is going to be the use for that. On any account, I wanted to indicate that for all intents and purposes, I decided to create the elements of this stream in PowerPoint as well, so that you have the background is made with PowerPoint, the upper thirds, the lower thirds are all made with PowerPoint. Today, we're going to talk about some of those features and how you can utilize them to bring new dimensions to your flyers, to your business cards, to your streams, to your social media engagement, to creating video, to creating live or just a still. Let's get started. All right. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to communicate to you what I'm doing as I believe that this is an opportunity to engage a teaching moment throughout the entire process. So we're now going to move to sharing our screen. And as we get ready to share our screen, let's see. I'm going to go to my desktop if I can. Let's see, application. My entire screen, my application. Let's go with my entire screen. I'm going to share my entire screen with you because if I make changes, I want you to see what those changes are. That's why I'm going to choose my entire screen as opposed to an application window or a Chrome tab, which is, I'm also utilizing Chrome, Google Chrome. So let's see, I don't need to share any audio in this setting. I'm going to choose and then click share. All right, so from this point, you're going to see what I see on my full screen. And I'm going to open up our PowerPoint. And that should be what you should be seeing in a short stance. And again, I want to welcome you to Be Creative Academy. As we are in Be Creative Academy, our actual mission and our vision is to provide creative media solutions from vision to fruition. That is our goal. That is our tagline. That is what drives us forward to be those who assist you and others to bring their vision to fruition. The question then is, what do you see? Because as creatives, essentially, that informs the actions that we're going to take. What my mind can conceive, we were taught from little children, and my heart can believe, I can achieve. And that is a move of progressive move toward innovation. And so we want to envision, and then we want to think about what tools are available, and then how do we use those tools to bring it to fruition. My role as a gifts activation coach is to help you to analyze what tools are available, what resources are available to you, what gifts do you need to sharpen and hone to bring a particular vision to pass. And today I mentioned that so that we understand that this is about recognizing tools that are accessible to us so that we can go to the next level. And so right now we are in PowerPoint. And as we are in PowerPoint, I want to share with you that what we're looking at, this very cover design, was created here in PowerPoint. And again, it can be used in the context of understanding, building presentations and the like, but each of the slides can be used to create the nuances of our experience, such that as you see here, again, something that I've created in PowerPoint, we're going to look at certain other elements that we can look at here. I'm going to use the slideshow format to just go through some ideas, and then we're going to talk about how we did what we did. All right. And so in this particular slide, what you're seeing is another set of elements that were pulled together or created in PowerPoint, from the logo that I've utilized for several years and tweaked to refine, to again, the upper thirds, lower thirds, those banners that you see in the top and in the bottom, even into the star special effects that you see there, as well as then and importing a picture. And in this instance, it was a picture of a hand holding a phone, was then able to create the screen element and then overlap it as a layer over the screen of the telephone. What's in your hands is a question that we commonly ask as teaching methodology. God asked Moses the same question, and Moses liberated a nation. Moses was unsure of himself on how to move forward after God had given him instruction on how to move forward and what he wanted him to do. And he was apprehensive. And God asked him, "What's in your hands?" When he said, "What am I going to do it with?" And so what's your excuse? We have no excuses. And so our aim is to move forward by faith as we take a look at this software. I want you to just take a good look. And if you can see my cursor here, you can see that there's a square that we've utilized to run a campaign regarding Be Creative and other pieces that I've used with my picture. Took my picture and added a certain effect on the actual picture, took text, added it to the picture, all done in PowerPoint, deliberately to kind of help you understand that as you look at these various elements, these are all things that you can recreate or create in PowerPoint. Instead of incorporating a picture, maybe, or I should say importing a picture or purchasing a picture, because typically you want to purchase the intellectual property that you might be utilizing, or at least lease it or license it, but you can also create it. We've got this wonderful tool in the palm of our hands called a mobile device or a smartphone. And many of them have cameras, microphones. There's no limitation. And so you can indeed take one phone and hold your own hand and take a picture of it as well. Sometimes you'll get an idea by something that you see and expand on it. What I then did is overlaid that over an image of a picture that I had been given to use as the background for the sky and the greenery in the background. But you can also take your own pictures and then layer upon layer, build what you need to build. Just wanted to give you that example. Here we have text that has been filled. This is a very popular device that's being used in graphics as graphic design for flyers, digital marketing collateral such as t-shirts, bags, and the like. We're going to touch on that. Here's another example of that. Here's a very popular one here. And so we're going to get to that right now. This is what I was telling you in terms of the stars and elements of the stars, and we're going to get into that. All right, so let's get to it. Bless the Lord. So let's start with something like this. I believe that in order to utilize tools, you have to understand, one, what the tool is, what it does, and how you might apply it. The tool, what it does, how you might apply it. And this particular software is robust with resources. You're only limited by your imagination. And so we're going to go through that. And if you're not familiar with PowerPoint, you'll find that there's many, many different weebles that go step by step. I want to articulate specifically that this is a PowerPoint version 2017 that has been downloaded to my computer. The reason I want to take special effort to communicate that to you is because PowerPoint has many versions, and particularly right now, you'll find that there's a PowerPoint 360, PowerPoint 365. Yes, PowerPoint 365, Microsoft 365. The 365 versions are those that are in the cloud, and as such, do not have as many features as is the one that I am showing you here. I want to just be careful to mention that in case you have 65, that is a great software, but I want to encourage you to find you one that you can download to utilize in the way that I'm utilizing. Some of the features that I'm utilizing may not be available in the one that you're using, so you'll want to check. We're going to look at this and get to it. So we have the Be Creative Academy here. What I did is I took a picture, literally, of my computer sitting on my table, with the mindset of, again, we have no excuses. If you don't have an office area, utilize your kitchen table. If you don't have a kitchen, if you do have an office area, you utilize your office area. There's no excuse. You can be in one room, and your students can be in another room. Your family can engage in various areas. Don't allow there to be any excuse that keeps you from moving forward. So I took my mobile phone and I took a picture of my computer on my table, and I used it as a background to say, be creative. All right. And so how did we create this? Let's start with that. First thing we did is we created a new slide. When you have a new slide, PowerPoint wants to give you help because, remember, it did start off as a presentation software. So they're going to tell you, add a title, click here for your text. You can import these various elements for the presentation. We're not using it for that purpose today, so I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to delete it. If I didn't intend to delete it, naturally I can Control Z or hit the back arrow to restore it. I just did that so that I can show you another way. Remember, we are all about pivoting. You want to be able to find it more than one way to do something. So I could also click in that page and then click Control A, which is the equivalent of going to Control All or select everything on the page, and then I can delete. That's another shortcut to do that. What I then want to do is remind you that many things that you see as it relates to branding nowadays, as it relates to logo design and brand identity, have to do with text. So you come up with a name, but how is that text being seen? What is it that you want to say? So you may want to start off with, and here's what I suggest. In Microsoft Word, many of us knew that you could just go into Microsoft Word and begin typing. But because we're thinking layers, we want to begin to try to isolate each of the elements that we're using so that we can move them as we need to. One of the ways we can do that is by clicking on text box, creating text box or text boxes so that we can utilize them as we want. So here I'm going to go Be Creative Academy. And now I'm going to use that box that way. If I want, I can copy and paste that element and then put more text, whatever I need to do. Or I can just go in back to Insert and put another text box. I find it quicker to just create another text box. I'm going to be writing Creative Media Solutions from vision to fruition. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's the fonts that you're using, the text that may communicate the idea, but it's the font that will bring characteristics that communicate personality, that communicate identity, that create what you may want to say about that particular statement, that particular thought, that particular idea, that particular title. And so I'm going to go to my fonts, and I commonly purchase fonts, licensed fonts that are in alignment with what I want to utilize. And you can go to font libraries such as DaFont online. Adobe has font libraries. There are common fonts like Bevel. You may know of Times New Roman. There are script fonts. There are just various fonts that you can use. Book Antiqua is common. California is common. CAC Champagne has become common. but there's one in particular that I already have in mind. Let's say if I went to Castellar, but that's not the one I'm going to utilize today. Give me a moment as we locate this one. This is another thing. As you create, if you think there's something you're going to repeat, you may want to keep a source folder. You may want to keep a source folder. The source folder merely is something that helps you to indicate where your images are, what fonts did you use, so that you can duplicate that. If you're going to print it, you'll want to keep those elements together as you get ready to send, not just perhaps the original, the PDF that you might make, or the PNG file you might make, or the JPEG you might make. But if your printer needs the actual source files, you'll have them all together. So you see I have a bunch of fonts here. And many of us have a bunch of fonts that come already pre-embedded. In this instance, there was some that I needed to utilize, I was looking for, and I came upon, we're looking for Niagara Engraved. We found it there. And so we're then going to enlarge that, or if you know specifically the font size that you want to go to, you can already place that in. But sometimes you can kind of experiment with what you think you want to see. Box is a little bit too small. We enlarged it by grabbing the circle and pulling it out. And so we have Be Creative Academy there. This text box, remember I said you're using text boxes because you want to be able to have flexibility to move them around. In this instance, now I can move this down to the bottom where I know it's going to be. I want to say Be Creative and have Academy at the bottom, or you can have it all as one line. It depends on the use. I want to have it larger. And in the home, again, remember I was saying it's about understanding the tools and what you have. I'm now going to just quickly go to the center item. And you can, as you see, center one item. I can go Control Z to go back, or you can use the shortcut, which is Control E. Actually, Control A selects everything, Control E then centers it. Or you could just go to the center icon there from the Home tab. All right. And so I have that there, and I'm going to now enlarge this particular set of fonts. And the reason I'm going to go ahead and do that is to help us understand, again, font. What is it that you want to communicate? Here, I want something that's round and smooth, and Century is one that usually does that for me. So I'm looking for the Century Gothic font, and you'll see it's full and it's round. That's ultimately what I want to have there. It has a kind of open, full-bodied characteristic to it. I've reduced it, and I'm centering that as well. Control E, or you could also just click there. And again, you can make it go to the right, to the left, justified. I'm going to go center. And now I want to make this a little bit larger. So now I can now do this, make it larger by just increasing the font size. All right. As we go here, then let's say we want to take both of these elements. You can click in this text box, and you can click on the next text box. And then we can then, as we need to, align the text boxes to be centered, or to move those however we need to. So they are centered with one another. And I can actually then group those pages as well. I'm going to right click. You want to right click on the actual line of this, of what it is that you're trying to group. And then I can click group. Once I've grouped those, I can move them slide the outer box together, and you'll see that there's lines that give me a guide as to it being centered. I'm going to show you that again. Those lines there let me know that it's centered top and bottom, X and Y dimensions. All right, so essentially I have that. And now I'm just going to back step for a quick moment to identify some things here. In PowerPoint, we've made a new slide. This is the font area where I've been able to determine what font I was going to use, the size of the font. You can bold it here, italicize it, underline it, or even create some shadow, but that's not the shadow we want to use as we engage our design dimensions. Just want to show you where those things are. You can increase the font size, decrease the font size. If there's something that you want to know what it does, if you don't know, you can just hover over it and Microsoft will let you know. So at this point, I would get ready to change the color. But again, I want to show you, you have the clipboard section, that's for cutting and pasting. You have the slide section in terms of new slides, the layout and what have you. You have the font and the characteristics of the font. You have paragraph, the characteristics of the paragraph, the direction of the text, align text, text boxes as I showed you. And then you have drawing, if you wanted to draw certain elements or you just wanted to find a shape that you wanted to add to it, which we're going to look at in a moment. Then in the drawing element, you also have shape fill, which is different from text fill. Shape fill would fill this box as opposed to change the color of the actual text. And we're going to see that in a little while as well. Shape outline, shape effects, and the find, replace. We're not going to be utilizing that today. So what we've taken and done so far is we have decided we're creating a header page for Be Creative Academy, or even let's call this a flyer, or it could be a placeholder, or it could be a poster or a banner. It could be a number of things. We talked about having one fruit, many uses. We planted the seed to produce this particular image so far, and it can have many uses, many uses. If you have any questions, please make sure that you have registered and given permission through StreamYard so that we can see those questions as well. And we're going to take those by text message or email if you need to follow up afterward. All right. So why did we choose this particular font? We chose this particular font because it already had design dimensions. It already had dimensions that kind of give it an embossed look. And so we wanted to use that. Now I want to share that there is a regular plain version of that same font. If we went to Niagara, if I just type that in without the engrave, let me go back. Let's see here. We go back to Niagara. Sometimes you have to scroll down if it's going to give you the challenges there. Like I said, more than one way to do everything that you need to do. Explore it. Okay, we are now in the ends. And another feature that you can just actually scroll through when you're not sure what you're wanting. So here's the solid version. That's the solid version. But I wanted an engraved look and embossed look. And so I can start off with that. There's other ways for me to create that, but this is the way I want to start off utilizing this one. It already has an engraved font. It makes it easier for me to then change the color if I want to use gold, right? If I want to use black or blue or any of these other colors. So that, again, depending upon what you envision, depending upon what you imagine, and you can change accordingly. So if I were to choose a darker gold, that gold there, and I already know that my primary colors are gold and purple. Those are the colors of my brand. And so I already know that that's how I'm going to utilize this. I could bold that if I wanted it to be more pronounced, but I intentionally want this to be thin but full bodied. Okay. And what we've just done is created the text portion of the beginning here. Why did we use this font? We use this font because it's already engraved. We use this font Niagara because it's also tall. It's thin and tall. Be creative. In this particular instance, we wanted it to have a more of a regal look. And so when you're thinking about your fonts, you want to think about the feeling. You want to think about the emotion that's driven from what people see. When you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you'll see that the letters are fat. The letters are filling. The psychology of it is also very much a part of the fonts that you select. Dunkin' Donuts, DD's, it's rounded. It's something that's going to remind you of the donut, the primary donut that they're selling. And so also what's filled in the cup, the donut itself, the various other pastries that they sell, a cup of coffee or hot chocolate, or cafe mocha, what have you. And so you see that when you go to McDonald's. Subways has a bold font, but it's not as rounded. And so the colors that are used, the font that is used, all elicit emotion. And sometimes if you're not sure, you can actually begin to Google. You can do your own research. You can say, what colors elicit this particular type of reaction? For instance, if you just thought for yourself, what are some of the things that elicit love? Most people are going to go red. Red elicits love. What elicits something that's regal and kingly and royal? People are going to think gold, purple. Those are royal and regal colors. Royal blue. Those are the types of emotions that are going to then be driven as you communicate the brand of your particular identity. In this instance, we're then now just going to add a background. And as I've shown you what each of those elements do, we're going to go to the Insert tab. That was the Home tab. You go to the Insert tab, and the Insert tab is where we can actually import pictures if we wanted to. So we could go to Picture, find that device, and for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to show you an example here. I'm going to go to my area of pictures. I'm going to go to maybe backgrounds that I might have saved or nature that I've also saved from other projects. And it looks like I've got some low memory going on here, but here we go, Be Creative Academy. And let's just go to, just as an example, Insert. So now I have this picture. And in this picture, I'm going to, you can actually stretch it out and keep it to the same dimension that it actually is by reaching in one of the corners and pulling outward, or you can one-dimensionally stretch it by adding pulling on one side. It depends on what it is that you want to capture, what you want to see. And so now what I'm going to do is in the insert, I want to make sure I communicate to you these elements really quick. Picture, screenshot. If you take a screenshot of whatever's on your screen, you can utilize that through PowerPoint, a photo album, shapes, smart art, chart, add-ins, which I don't utilize too much, links. If you want to hyperlink a particular element in your presentation to be used in social media, you can do so there as well. Add comments because you're editing or working or collaborating with a team. You can do so with that particular element in insert. As I mentioned before, text box, header, footer, word art. Don't use word art too much, but I find that the same things that I want to do, I can find through text box, but word art is a shortcut version of using some of the things that are already part of PowerPoint. It might be helpful toward giving you ideas, slide number, object, equations, or symbols that you may want to use. If you wanted to incorporate video, this won't be applicable in this instance, or audio, or wanted to screen record. If I wanted to record this by recording my screen, I could do so here and save it as a video when it's all said and done. And so that's the insert features here. And what I'm going to then do is jump over to format. Notice that the moment I put the picture in and inserted it, Microsoft suggested that if I want to format it, I could click this tab. So I'm going to briefly go through. I can remove the background. I can make corrections here, color, artistic effects, compress the picture, make it smaller. So if it's voluminous in regards of size, special effects in terms of frames I can add if you see those changing, add shadow, again, robust with features. But I don't want to do any of those at this point because it's not in line with what I want to share with you regarding how we made this particular image, but wanted to let you see that there's a bunch of things. If I wanted to crop it, I could click crop here, and the black guides basically help me to move certain elements of the picture to re-identify what I want to utilize, such that if I only wanted that area, I could then take that and again, click in one edge, one corner, and pull that out, or go left and right. I'm going to undo that because I do want to use the former version. I believe that you can undo up to 99 times, depending on the resources of your computer. That was the crop feature under the Format tab, which we are not going to utilize at this point. And you can actually see the height and the width of the image that you're creating, and you can change that utilizing your ellipsis keys there. So I have Be Creative, and I want this as the background. Remember, we were talking about layers. When you're thinking about layers, you're thinking about sort of like a sandwich. If you're creating a sandwich, you've got your bread as the base, and then you add some mayo, that's one layer. You add turkey as another layer. You add maybe tomatoes and lettuce as another layer. You add your cheese as another layer, and then you top it off with the final piece of bread. These are layers that we're working with. So if I right click with my pointer here on the picture, I can actually send this picture to the back. And so it's moved to the back. But before I move it to the back, you'll notice that it's not blending with the image that is actually here. There's a number of ways I can deal with that. I can click on it while it's still there, or I can bring it back to the front with Control-Z. Modify it before I go. I can modify it as I go. I recommend if you're going to do it before, then, or if you're going to do it as you go, that you go ahead, send it to the back, and be sure to click on the image, not on the text that you've used. So you click on the image, and now I'm going to go to color correction. In color correction, there's a number of things that I can do. I can soften it. I can also make it darker. And I can hover over it to see what it's going to look like before I choose it. While it's more visible, it's not in line with what I want. And so I can then brighten it and see what it looks like if I brighten it. And so I see a little bit more of what I want, but not exactly what I'm looking for. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose to go to the lightest version. And it communicates the brightness and the contrast as you go through those. Right? And so I'm going to go to this version. And then I'm going to add another layer. Here's how I'm going to add another layer. Because I didn't have to choose that. I want to also share with you that I could have corrected the color in this way. I could have made it black and white. I could have made it gold. Could have made it unichrome gold. Could have saturated it, depending on what types of effects I want to add. But in this instance, I'm just going to add another layer. I'm going to go back to Insert, And as I go to insert, I'm going to take a shape. I'm going to click that shape, and I'm going to start from this circle and drag down to the next circle. Center that. You can move it around as you need to. I'm going to go to the shape fill, because now I'm affecting this color. And I am going to select it. But I can go back to shape fill and I can add a gradient. And the gradient will allow me to change the dimensions of that particular square, as you can see there. Again, I already know that my colors that I'm going to utilize in my ultimate brand identity is purple and gold. So what I'm going to choose is one that allows me to have the shadow in the top left corner, because now that I have that, if I send backward, there's a difference between sending to back and send backward. If you send backward, it sends it back one layer as opposed to all the way to the back. And the reason I want this in the middle is because I'm going to utilize this particular layer to add more dimension, add more dimension to my image here. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to go Format Shape. I'm going to click on this particular, and the gradient stops. Where that one was a darker gold, I'm going to change it to purple. And then I can adjust that purple across the page by virtue of moving that stop. But it's pretty much where I would like it to be. I can also move the other stop, but it's pretty much where I would like it to be. So I'm going to keep that way. Want it just touching the Be Creative there. And I'm going to go with that gold. Now look at what I'm going to do here. Remember, we have the dimension behind it. Let's go back to that as I moved away from it. I'm on this particular image, and I want the gold portion here on this stop. I click that stop to be able to show through what's happening in the background a bit. So you can change transparency. You can make it totally transparent in that particular area. In this instance, I don't want it totally transparent. I want some of that gold there. And so I'm moving it that way. I've got more gold here. And if I wanted to, I could also make this just a darker gold to add a little bit more dimension. Or I could make it purple again, like that. And so we have a little bit more. And adjust it. If I move again, the stops. I think I like it with the gold right there. And that's showing you my transparency areas. I'm happy with that. Now, to make the text a little bit more visible, we're going to format the text by double-clicking to highlight it. I'm going to go to Format, and now I'm going to Format Text Effects. Again, robust. I'm going to choose adding a shadow, which will add more dimension there as well. With this particular one, I can do the same, or I could choose to give it a glow. And you don't have to choose the pre-selected glows. You can go to the color that you're looking for and make it stand out more that way. Or again, because my colors are purple and gold, I can give it a purple. I can go back in and modify the sizing by going to Glow Options, which is going to show up on the right side, Format Shape. I can go to this ellipsis to make it less, or I could utilize the slider to make it more. So that's something that I could do. And that'll give it a kind of purple glow, almost like a shadow there. And I can still click on this image, highlight it by Control A, and go back and use another one of those effects and even add a shadow. I can determine what type of shadow I want to use. And here's a neat feature, a shortcut that many don't think that to use that. You can create an inner portion of the shadow as well. It almost gives it an embossed look if it wasn't already an engraved font. So in this instance, I'm going to give it a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to go with that one there. But I'm going back into, just to show you what other features there are. You can utilize Bevel. And the Bevel will, if it didn't have the engraved look, it can give it an engraved look. I can engrave the engraved look that much more. These are features that you can use to add certain dimensions to a font that may not have the, I should say, beveled or engraved look. So in this instance, I think it adds more detail. So I'm going to utilize that one. And I'm just about done with that. And so that's how we have created that. Now the background, you can do the same thing. We can go into the background, and the shape effects will allow us to use bevel as well, where we can bevel the actual edges. And you look around to see which one is the one that you might prefer to utilize. And you can modify those as well. So let's say if I utilized this one here, I can then, since we're still in format shape, I can scroll down format shape to the point where we would have what they call 3D formatting. And you can affect changes on the bevel there as well. You'll want to experiment. In this instance, I know I want to make the frame more pronounced. So I'm going to bring it from a 6 point to a 13 point. You can choose to do just one area or the entire area. Just wanted you to see what that looks like. I'm going to make it much larger to exaggerate it. So you'll see what you can do. I went 42 points there, but kept this at 11 points. If I made it equal, I can create other types of features like that. So that almost looks like a kind of gold brick. And you can do various things like that. So what we've gone through so far is inserting. We've looked at how to format the text, how to format the actual shape. If this were a presentation, you could actually give motion to one portion of this. And the way we would do that, and we're going to bring this to a close for this session, is we're going to right-click, right-click on the line, or make sure you're on the line, and right-click. I'm missing it. And where it says group, we're going to ungroup it. Well, why are you doing that? Because I only want to, remember I said you want versatility with your text boxes. I only want to see this area move right now. And then I want that area to move independently of this particular text. So now we're going to a feature called animation. In animation, if this were a presentation and I wanted it to appear, I can click there and it will show you what it would do, appear. But what I want to do instead is I want to make it float in. So you see what that looks like, float in. That's the first thing I want to float in. I want it to be followed by I want it to be followed by this floater. And so we move there. And so essentially now what we have is two areas that are floating in. And because I see the N blending in with the purple there, I'm going to add another dimension here. I'm going to go to Format again, Text Effect, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow around it. Again, you can choose the thickness of the glow. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it doesn't get muddied with the background, the purple background that's there. And you can see what I mean by that. Okay. And so what we have gone through is adding animation so that to the point, if I wanted to use this then as a video clip, what I could do is then, let me just go into animation here. In animation, this is currently on click. I want to go to the portion that says with after previous. So after previous means it's going to show you the plane. Then after the plane, it's going to then show you this text. And I want that to be after previous. There's going to be a 1 second delay. And I'm going to do the same thing with not after clicking, but I want it to happen after the previous. So if you ever want to see what that looks like, you can then click on the outside of it and go start. Okay. It's not showing me there, so I'm going to go to the animation pane. And we're going to see what this looks like as we play it from there. Play. Be Creative Academy, Creative Media Solutions from Vision to Fruition. If I wanted to delay a portion of it, so that if I made it 3 seconds, because maybe I decided that I might later add a voice to it, I then play it from here, and I literally go through it. I play it from here. Be Creative Academy, Creative Media Solutions from Vision to Fruition. So I already have a sense that that will flow however I need that to flow. And what we have created here is a placeholder. We've created the cover of a presentation. We've created the elements of a video if we need to. And the only other thing I want to add there then is the logo, which I've created prior to this meeting. And so we go to pictures. Again, like I said, I've been using this logo for a couple of years now, but created it right here in PowerPoint. And again, you want to maintain your naming convention so that you can find what you're looking for pretty quickly. I'm going here, EBCM, EB Creative Media. And then I'm looking for my logo element, EB logo. And again, having my memory challenges, I see we are stretching my computer today as we are online and using various elements. So this one I created and saved it as a ping file, and I saved it as a ping file so that it has no background, even though you see the black there. And I can then insert it. Once I insert it, I can resize, move around as I need to. If I were then going to place that there, I would leave that as the element, or I could actually bring that to the center. Be Creative Academy. However you kind of see it. I like to try to have balance, and that's why I took it off of the edge here. But in the original design, you'll see that we put it on the edge, and we formatted the text differently to give it more of a balanced look. Here we have a different background, and you see there's the image of the wilderness in the background. Or I should say that wooded area. You have Be Creative Media Academy, Be Creative Academy, excuse me. And then you have the embossed elements that we've added to the shape, along with the gradation from purple to yellow as the in between. And that's the first lesson. I want to thank you for partnering with us in this effort. Certainly, this is step one. We're going to make sure that we make available to you some of the other details. I want to share with you how we actually created this logo and how you'll be able to create your logo as well. So as a takeaway for today's session, you'll also receive a file, I should say a video file that's going to be much like this one, but specifically focuses on how to create your logo. Again, I'm Emery Barber of ebcreativemedia.com. We are those who provide creative media solutions from vision to fruition. What is it that you see as you see these tools put into place? You'll find that in our community, Be Creative on Facebook. Certainly our goal is to engage one another and find out how we can activate our gifts to be creative now. In the Be Creative Challenge, we are going a little bit more in depth, and I have an intensive where I go step by step, depending on what you need to do, where you can contract us to work with you and provide a coaching environment that will help you to create the elements in a more continuous fashion. What is it that you want to do? What, beginning with the end that is in mind, from website design to graphic design to creating various elements. Here, you should be able to even see how you can utilize this to create t-shirts. I've already shown you how to make it as a video. I'm going to close this one by actually showing you the full format. I'm going to follow through with this one also floating in, and we're going to do that after previous. And by doing so, when we do a preview, we see what that looks like. We could also F5 because this could be part of a presentation. Going to the next one. There we go. Be Creative. Creative Media Solutions from Vision to Fruition, followed by the logo. And so that's the way that can be. So that could be actually a welcome feature of a presentation or a Zoom, a live webinar that you're engaging that you can create for yourself, and that becomes part of your brand. You could also use it as a video commercial, digital collateral. So we're going to go File, Save As. We're going to browse. I'm sorry. Okay. And we go to Power to the Point. And we're going to save that as Be Creative Vid 3. We're going to change the format, save as type, and we are going to then choose the video format, which should be MP4 video, and then save. As we do so, it's going to produce an MP4, which you'll be able to see the format or the process of that format in the lower screen, where you'll see creating video. And once it's done, you'll see that it's done, and you can utilize that in various social media as well, be it your video cast, your social media, or just embedding in a website or a portion of your presentation. You can import it in as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with me I want to thank you again for allowing us to share this time with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back on here. And again, want to thank you for allowing us to come into your living room or your kitchen table or your office and to be able to share this particular design dimensions guidance. This is really a one of many. And if you'd like to lay hold of more, certainly keep an eye as we intend to do this for the next couple of weeks. Those that are new coming on to our design session want you to know that you'll be able to participate and get a hold of the copy of this version if you join us this week or during the week. Certainly we'll be gathering next Saturday as well. And those that participated this Saturday will get it will be able to join us next week for free. That is the benefit that we're giving to those who joined us as we have relaunched this effort. And we thank you for the privilege again to join you, come alongside you to be creative. Until the next time, stay blessed. Emery Barber, ebcreativemedia.com. May the Lord God bless you. Real good.